Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for this Meet Melbourne graduate webinar, where today we're discussing the Master of Biotechnology. So this webinar is part of a greater series of graduate webinars that are taking place over the coming weeks at the university. So if you do have an interest in multiple areas, be sure to check the others out as well. So my name is Remy Dovers, and I'm a Student Recruitment Officer within the Faculty of Science, and I'm going to be the moderator of today's webinar. In the spirit of reconciliation, the University of Melbourne acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connection to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Now, in this online format, that is a bit of an interesting acknowledgement of country, as many of you will be tuning in from different areas in Australia and even internationally as well. So I'm currently speaking to you from my home in Coburg, upon lands which the elders and descendants of the Wurundjeri people are the traditional custodians. So once again, thank you so much for joining me and our experts for today, who are Dr. Richard Buchta, who teaches into the Master of Biotechnology. Richard is teaching into project management in science, regulation in biotechnology, and from lab to life, some of the subjects within the Masters. And he also works in industry as well. We're also joined by two of our current students, Sonakshi and Turlo, who are both completing the Master of Biotechnology, and they're in different stages of the program. So we're going to begin this webinar with an overview from Richard just about the Master of Biotech program. And we're also going to hear a little bit about both Sonakshi and Turlo. And hopefully together, this is going to ignite some questions from you, the audience, which we want you to pose to us in the questions window that you see on your page. So this will hopefully be available to you for the duration of the webinar. So we'll have someone in the background answering your questions live. But I also want to take some of those questions and pose them directly to our panel as well. So be sure to enter your questions, and we'll try to ensure that we get to all of them throughout this session. If we don't get to your question, do make sure that you submit it via our website so that we can follow up with you in the coming days. So that's it from me for the moment, but I'll be back to moderate the panel later on. I'll hand it over to you now, Richard, to take us through some of the key features of the Master of Biotechnology here at Melbourne.
Okay, thank you very much, Remy. Welcome to everyone for this overview of the Master of Biotechnology program at the University of Melbourne. Let me tell you a little bit about the biotech industry. So biotechnology can simply be described as a technology based on biology. It uses biological knowledge to develop new processes and products in various global industries such as health, agriculture, human therapeutics, industrial applications, food technology, medical and diagnostics, clean energy, and other areas of human technology. It's one of the world's biggest and fastest growing industries. Career prospects include biotechnology research and development, product manufacturing, policy, business development, and product wholesaling. I've been in the industry for over 25 years and experienced a lot of those aspects from a career perspective. And it can lead you to specific careers in medical or veterinary science, food technology, agricultural and forensic science. So there is a strong demand for graduates with an understanding of skills in biosciences, technology and business. So let's take a look at some stats. Biotechnology is a global industry. I think it's been around for at least 30, 40 years now, with a demand growing for highly skilled professionals. In Australia, there are over 470 core biotechnology companies, and by 2025, the biotechnology industry is predicted to reach an annual turnover around $1 trillion. So there is a continued growth in earnings from this sector. The number of people in working industry is growing very strongly, especially in the last 5 years, and it will continue to grow over the next 5 years. There are likely to be about 5,000 job openings over the next 5 years, about 1,000 a year, so leading to huge career potential. So in terms of the Master of Biotechnology program, you'll be studying a number of aspects that will help you develop skills suitable for a career in this industry. The careers or the opportunities require both a scientific background and an understanding of the commercial requirements of the industry. And so that's why graduates from this course are in high demand because of their skill set. So the Master of Biotechnology gives you the opportunity to study all aspects of the biotechnology product pipeline, covering research and development, manufacturing, policy and business development, product wholesaling, and also intellectual property, including licensing. And you'll put your knowledge to practice in the flagship industry project in biotechnology in your second year of this course. So as mentioned, there is a huge demand for people in this industry, and the turnover is growing, be about $1 trillion by 2025. And companies like Roche, GSK, CSL, Bayer are among the highest market value companies worldwide. The other interesting and I guess important aspect of the course is that being at Melbourne University, you're located in the Melbourne Biomedical Precinct. It's not always, sometimes it's not what you know, but who you know. And it's a good place to make those connections, both within the research and within industry, with exposure to both leading researchers and the network in the industry. In demand globally, we find that by working in the industry on real world problems, by working in the industry project, you'll gain even more real world experience. So it's not about those technical skills, but it's about those soft skills that you'll be learning. So in terms of what you'll study, it's a 2-year program. It's made up of core subjects, including the industry project in biotechnology. It has elective subjects as well. In your first year, you'll study core subjects in science, commercialization, and professional skills, with up to 2 electives included. In the second year, you'll complete your core and elective subjects and undertake the industry project in biotechnology as well. And the high-performing students who are interested can undertake a research project if available as an elective option, and if a supervisor is available. So I think there's a lot of opportunity, and the scope for studying is quite broad. In specific subjects, you're ranging from both your laboratory-based as well as to your commercial and industry-based relevant subjects. First year worth 100 points, and semester 1, 1 lab course, microscopy for biological sciences. From Lab to Life, which I teach, which is a good grounding overall in the overall biotech industry in different aspects. Genomics and bioinformatics, and leadership in science. Leadership in science is particularly interesting as it does have guest lecturers. And I should say From Lab to Life also has guest lecturers, so you get quite a different feel of different parts of the industry, as well as different roles within the industry. Continuing into semester 2, some additional lab-based projects around metabolomics and proteomics, advanced molecular biology techniques, and then commercialization of science, particularly interesting around how to commercialize a biotech product from the research stage right through to the market. And then, of course, regulation of biotechnology in terms of having products approved, as well as the associated regulations that govern the industry, both from a research as well as a commercial perspective. In terms of second year, again, 100 points. Semester 1, data and decision making, genetically modified organisms, and project management in science, the latter which I teach. Particularly important for not only within this course, but for general courses overall. It is particularly valued by a lot of companies in terms of students and people with that skill set who can manage projects. Communication in the workplace is particularly important in terms of the language used and how it is communicated both within the industry and to the public. Elective subjects such as food safety and quality and tissue engineering and stem cells complete that. And of course, the whole year project in industry does form a particularly valuable core subject for the course. So let me talk a little bit more about the industry project in biotechnology. It is one of the key features. So it provides you credit towards your degree while developing your technical and professional skills and building your graduate career prospects. And having had graduates come through companies that I've worked with, it is a very interesting experience, both for the company as well as for the student. It does provide the company not only with new ways of looking at problems that they're attempting to solve and do provide the students as part of that industry project, but the students obviously gain that experience as well. So I think the key things there are definitely the scientific thinking, but other aspects of the organisation and how it functions, complemented of course by all the subjects that you are studying. You'll be assigned to syndicate groups to address a practical industry challenge or issue which has been identified by the industry partner. And you'll maintain contact with the business during the course of the year, as well as the academic project supervisor as well. And ultimately that will lead to a report. So in terms of what you'll be getting out of that, you know, identifying and articulating knowledge and skills and applying them to the industry settings, demonstrating analytical research and problem solving skills, and understanding the value of the industry and building professional networks. So those three aspects are, I think, very keenly sought in industry, especially the analytical research and problem solving skills, and also the insights that students bring to the industry as well, in terms of, as I mentioned earlier, looking at problems in different ways. It does build confidence in both yourself and being able to contribute in an operating work environment. And I guess the other aspect of that is you do gain the knowledge, practical knowledge, by working in industry. And it also gives industry, I guess, an evaluation or an opportunity to evaluate the students as potential future employees, as well as the student evaluating the employer as a potential company as a future employer to work in areas and develop beyond your degree. And in many cases, companies do tend to employ these students after they've completed their degree. So recent industry partners, there are quite a number here, but I think most people will be familiar with CSL, Trajan, Pharma is an injectables company based in Dandenong, a number of diagnostic companies, as well as a number of companies involved with cancer research. So where will this actually take you? There are a number of opportunities both within medical research institutes, government departments, research hospitals, pharmaceutical and biotechnology companies, universities, and public research institutions. So when you think about the institutions in the area around Melbourne University, you've got Walter and Eliza Hall, the Florey, the Burnett, and a little further afield, the Baker Heart and Diabetes Institute near the Alfred Hospital. Government departments, including Defence, Health, Agriculture, and Economic and Environment, are all potential employers for graduates from this course based on their understanding of biotechnology and associated areas. There are a number of research hospitals located nearby, such as Murdoch Children's Research, the Peter MacCallum Cancer Centre, and the Doherty Research Institute. And of course, pharmaceutical and biotechnology companies, we've talked about CSL, and of course GSK and Roche, and there are quite a number of much smaller companies that are looking for graduates with particular skills or opportunities where they can employ those skills given their small size in order to grow their own companies. And of course we have the universities and public research institutions such as CSIRO. So I'd like now to hand over to two current students, Sonakshi and Turlo, to give their experience with studying this degree. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dr. Buchta. So my name is Sonakshi Madan. I'm in my second year. I'm an international student from India. I moved to Melbourne a year ago for my master's. In terms of what attracted me to this course was multiple reasons. So the first one, of course, that this university is like one of the top 50 in the world, especially in science programs. Then Australia has one of the most diverse cultures in the world, and it has been such a learning experience for me, meeting so many people, having new experiences. I feel like there's a real sense of community that I found here. Then, of course, the academics, which you already heard about. I had an undergrad in biotech, and I was looking at master's options, but most of them I found to be very specialized and niche courses. But the Master of Biotechnology course here is like a perfectly balanced blend of science-based as well as commercialization or industry-based subjects, which I feel like is the USP of this course. I'm currently in my third semester, and I already have an idea of how a novel product that I may help develop in the lab can be brought to market to rake in money. I have learned about business plans, regulatory procedures, and now we have the subject that's teaching us how to run our own company, which is really cool. We get to practically apply all these skills in our industry project as well, which I personally feel is very useful for graduates stepping into the workforce. And in addition to that, if you got more of an academic or research inclination, there is a research project elective as well, which I am doing because I kind of wanted the best of both worlds. So I'd be happy to answer questions about that as well. Yeah, I think Turlo would be able to give her views now.
Great, thanks, Sonakshi. Yes, so my name is Turlo, and I'm in my final semester of the Masters of Biotech. And prior to this, I completed a Bachelor of Science also at the University of Melbourne. I chose to study the Masters because I've always been really fascinated by biology, and especially human biology, but I really liked the idea of combining that interest with my passion and interest in business as well. And this course has given me some great experiences over the last 2 years, including multiple experiences working with industry and opportunities to engage with biotech companies and biotech professionals as well. So in addition to my industry project, which I completed with a company called Trajan Scientific and Medical, as Richard mentioned in his presentation, I also interned at an early stage biotech company. And I was lucky enough to work with the biotechnology industry body AusBiotech on a report on the Australian life sciences sector. So I got a really good taste of the biotech industry as a whole as well. I've gained some really useful skills, both transferable and technical through this course, as well as a lot of confidence. And I'm really excited to be entering the workforce with this master's under my belt.
It's so exciting to hear about all of your different experiences that you can get out of the program just by selecting, you know, an industry project over, or sorry, an internship over a research project, and the different way that you can kind of tailor that. I really enjoy the fact that you both have had such kind of different experiences in the program. That's great. We've had a couple of questions come through the live chat, and the first one I might actually pose to our students. I might start with you, Sonakshi, with your response. People are really keen to know how the industry project works, and even in an administrative sense, how were you allocated your project? Did you have like help finding a project, or was that all organized for you? Could you explain the process as a student for us?
Mm-hmm. So for the industry project, we get divided into groups, which is the responsibility of the organizers. So all that students know about that is it's supposed to be an even blend of students in different semesters with different backgrounds so that we have like a well-rounded group. And then we are randomly assigned different companies based on our interests, which they ask. So we kind of like list, these are the different fields we're interested in, and then they do their magic. And then, so we are assigned a specific company and we are introduced to a few people that would be like our industry liaison there. And we are assigned a specific project that we work on. And we've got a faculty advisor as well assigned to each group. So if we have any problems, we can discuss that with the faculty advisor. And then we have to make a whole report project, which we present to the company. So we essentially acting like external consultants for the company for a specific project.
Great. I imagine, Turlo, your experiences was fairly similar because it's sort of the way that things work. But did you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I think Sonakshi covered it off quite well. My experience of the industry project, which I completed last year, was that we kept in quite close contact with our industry liaison. So we were regularly meeting and presenting our findings to them. And then we had a final presentation and report, which Sonakshi mentioned as well.
Great. That's a really good overview of how it functions and how it works as current students. And that's kind of what people are really interested in. It probably looks like a really big task, like you're going to have to go and find an industry project for yourself, but that's certainly not the case. And as you've both mentioned, there are staff there to help you all through the steps of the process as well. So that's really good. Richard, this might be a question for you, and as you've worked in industry before, you might be able to shed some light on what are some of the sustainable or green industry career pathways that you could get into with a Master of Biotechnology? So looking at, sustainability.
Yeah, okay. I think, around the environmental industries, analytical as well as research, there are opportunities. And even within the, more traditional pharma and biotech industries, there is a greater emphasis on environment and sustainability and looking at renewable resources within those industries. So I think there's a range of opportunities associated with that.
Great, thank you for that. Sonakshi, one for you, because you've mentioned that you did a Bachelor of Biotechnology prior to the Masters. And a student wants to know, what's the difference between doing it in a Bachelor as opposed to your Masters? So if you've already done it in your Bachelor, what's the different subjects or the different experience really that you're gaining from going further with a Master's?
So my undergraduate degree was completed in India, and we have a Bachelor of Technology degree, which is like an engineering degree. And because I was interested in the biological sciences, so I went for a Bachelor of Biotechnology. So it was more like getting to know about all bio-based subjects in addition to engineering subjects like physics and maths and electronics and stuff. So that was my undergraduate. And then in my master's, we've got, it's a Master of Science, so we don't really have the engineering aspect to it. It's more like we've got the science bit, which is useful for research projects and stuff. And then we've got the business and industry bit, which is something that we did not do in our bachelor's. I mean, it's like preparing us to get into the workforce, whereas bachelor's was mostly like giving us all the information, just studying.
That's a really good distinction between the two, I think. So that's great. Thank you. Turlo, a question for you perhaps now. Could you explain a little bit more about the day-to-day of an industry project that you went through? And I guess the question that's been posed combines that with the concept of an internship, which is actually different. And I know that you did an internship as well. So maybe at the same time you could explain, the day-to-day in the industry project compared to that internship that you did. Oh, I think we've just lost the sound there. We might skip that question for a moment and I'll move on to...
You've lost sound.
Oh, you're back.
Oh, okay.
Great.
Okay, I think you were asking about the day-to-day of the industry project. Great. So I guess from the start, we early on in the project, we had a lot of meetings between our team members. So as Sonakshi mentioned, we were put in teams. For me, it was a team of 4, and also with our industry contact. So we were given a brief, and then it was a process of doing our own independent research, coming together as a group and kind of compiling that. For me, I was working on a project related to microsampling techniques, which was super interesting. So a lot of what I was doing was searching through literature, as well as talking to even academics at the University of Melbourne. And then it was just a constant process of kind of collating and talking through our research with both the industry team and our industry contact. And then we had multiple presentations throughout the year to report back on our findings and to kind of hone in on the exact direction of our final report, which we then completed through a similar process. And we presented that to a team from the company Trajan Scientific and Medical, so a broader team to our industry contact, which was really, really useful as practice and to get even more connections in the industry.
Great, thank you for that. Richard, I might pose a question to you now because you've been silent for a little while. I'm a big believer in picking on people equally.
I might just make a comment. Sorry, I might just make a comment to Turlo's response. I think one of the beauties of the internship program is that independence and that students have in actually developing the research. I think that's an extremely important. So they're not, their hands are not held, so to speak, but they do have that opportunity to develop their own skills and see what they can do themselves. And I think as they're working in industry, I think that's what employers value, you know, in terms of students who do come on internships.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've constantly just heard of the value of that real world and hands-on experience from students, and just how like all those soft skills that are built just without even being aware of them being taught to you. It's a invaluable experience for sure. So someone wants to know a bit more about the subjects that you teach into the Master of Biotechnology, Richard, and maybe you could just give us a short 2-minute spiel on your topics and maybe what you even did research in yourself as well.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, this year I'm teaching from lab to life. That is essentially a 23 lecture program plus tutorials, mostly with guest lecturers from industry talking on various aspects of intellectual property, licensing, venture capital, generics, a focus on communication, starting a business. So a various overview of the industry and what's involved in different parts of it. This project management in science is teaching essentially basic project management. And so going through a 12 workshop program where details on how to manage a project, how to detail a project, as well as using particular software to help you draft a project plan. And the assessment for that is not only a final exam, but various assignments along the way, highlighting various aspects of the subject that's been taught. So to essentially plan a project and not necessarily implement it. And the third subject I'll be teaching this year is regulation in biotechnology, which covers the regulation of pharmaceuticals, genetically modified organisms, as well as food industry as well. So looking at the aspects of regulation not only within Australia from the TGA, but as well as overseas. Typically, we look at the US FDA as well as the European regulatory agencies. So all three subjects involve a level not only of lectures, but also workshops and tutorials where students are given assignments that they need to use what they've been taught to write up or explore or research particular aspects for presentation.
Great, thank you for that. You've kind of segued into another question that's popping up. So I'm going to pose this one perhaps to you, Turlo. Are the subjects taught, you know, very much written assessments and essays and all these sorts of things, or do you get a lot of hands-on lab work as well as part of classes?
I think there's quite a mix between more hands-on teaching and maybe more like essay assignment based assessments. I'd say it probably leans more towards, we have a lot of group assignments, which is really useful for developing those soft skills like teamwork and like project management as well. So there are a lot of occasions where we work in teams, but there are also subjects where we learn more practical like lab-based skills like microscopy, which Richard mentioned in his presentation. That's a super practical subject and one that I really enjoyed especially. And there's also a lot of opportunities to practice skills like using bioinformatics tools, and sort of there are a lot of occasions where we get to apply the learning that we've learned to a more practical situation.
Great, thank you for that. Sonakshi, one for you now, as you're doing a research project. Can you tell us a bit about how that was organised, what you're doing your research in, and you know, was it a case of you having to find your own research topic, or it was assigned to you? Just a little bit about how it worked.
Okay. So the research project is an elective subject that I chose to take, and to be eligible for that, you have to maintain, you have to be in your second year or like have completed your first semester, and you have to maintain a weighted average mark, which is your grade point, around 80. There's a slight bit of leeway there. So if you've got like above 75, then there's a good chance that you might get one. And you have to arrange for your own research project or like your own supervisor at least, and they can assign you a project. So mine was actually, like Turlo raised, working in groups really helps with the soft skills. So I actually got this by talking with one of my group members who was under my current supervisor. It was just by chance I asked her if I could maybe meet with your supervisor to ask him about his work and stuff, and then it just worked out from there. So my project is on cancer biology. To be more specific, we are looking at brain tumors and like studying how they can survive even in harsh conditions, and which is basically, it's going to translate in clinical sense as how they survive radiation treatments and stuff. And it's really interesting when I get to tell people that I'm working on brain tumors. So yeah, that's what my research project is about. And if you're interested in it, I'd suggest that you maintain your WAM, which is like one of the only requirements. It's very easy to find a supervisor. There are a ton of resources online for that as well. So yeah, that's about it, I think.
Great, thank you for that. That kind of leads into another question that's popped up in the chat. So one of our attendees has mentioned that it sounds quite medically and healthcare orientated, the focus of the course. But Richard, you did mention that, you know, there's scope to focus in agriculture and agribusiness and across different areas as well. So this question is, if someone's interested in clean energy applications of biotechnology, like biofuels and things like that, is there scope for that kind of thing in this program?
Yes, I think the skills that are being developed are applicable to the clean energy biofuels area. In fact, one of the assignments done by one of the groups in project management this past semester was on biofuels presented an interesting research program around using fluorescent bacteria as a light source. So if you think about that, not only is there a research angle, but there's a regulatory angle, there's an intellectual property angle. So all of those aspects, combined from what you're learning in this course to actually give you an opportunity to work in that particular industry.
Great, thanks for that. Another one for you, Sonakshi. As an international student, how did you settle into Melbourne and sort of, tackle and navigate the big move?
So it definitely helped that I was very excited to come here to study. And then I feel like the university has so many great resources and like so many clubs and support groups and stuff that really helped me settle in well. They have like the University of Melbourne Student Union has so many different segments. One of them is the AMSU International, which is specifically to help and support international students in settling in well here. And then in our course as well, there are so many international students from so many places around the world, and it kind of brings us together, being away from home. So it's like you get to find your own family here. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you. That sounds very pleasant, very nice, like you've been supported really well. I agree. I think one of the key things when you're coming is to put yourself out there and, join clubs and societies. It can seem daunting to do that, to approach, new people and put your hand up as someone who is has just arrived or doesn't know many people, but really those clubs and societies are a great way to meet like-minded people, whether that's people who've also just arrived in Australia or they've got different, similar interests to you, whether that's in your study area or you might play an instrument or anything like that. There's a club for everyone, basically. So really happy you pointed that out. Thank you. Taylor, as you're coming, oh, sorry, Richard, do you have something to pop in there?
I just wanted to add to that. I think I found this year, and as Taylor mentioned about working in groups within each subject, I think, as a lecturer, making up those groups or assigning students or giving them the opportunity to come together is a great way for meeting students from different countries, as well as obviously mingling with local students as well within those groups. So another way of obviously getting to meet people.
Definitely. Yeah, there's sometimes a stigma attached to group work. People don't tend to like the idea of it, but it is such a beneficial way to work together, and it's the way that you're going to work for the rest of your life, unless you're in a room on your own creating something with no input, but that's very rarely the case.
Yeah.
And Turlo, since you're coming to the end of your Masters now, I wanted to know just one of your highlights as a student. It doesn't have to be necessarily, to do particularly with the program, but just something that perhaps has stood out for you in the last 2 years. Oh, I think we've lost the sound again on that one.
I think a major highlight. Is it back now? Wonderful. Okay. I think a major highlight for me has been really getting to know the biotechnology industry and finding where I might fit in and where my passion lies. I think, as I mentioned, the industry project and the internships I've been able to do have really given me a sense of how many opportunities there are in biotech. And I guess another highlight would be just the people that I have met through that group work. It is challenging, but you do learn so much, and I've been able to make some really strong friendships through that as well. So that's definitely been a highlight for me.
Perfect. What about you, Sonakshi?
I totally agree with the group work input that she gave. We actually used to be in a group together, so we're already friends.
Oh,
and yeah, so in most of our courses, especially in the project management and commercialization based ones, our teachers have tried to make the groups such that they have people from different backgrounds. So you get to know how cultural differences work in the workplace as well, which is quite important in today's international scenario. And yeah, I agree with what she said, exactly. And I also wanted to point out to the question that was asked about the focus of the course, which seems to be into the medical more. So I would suggest going through the website and the handbook for the course, which has a list of all the different areas of the electives, which was, as I mentioned, which was one of the factors that attracted me to the course, that you don't have to specialize in one. You can actually pick and choose whatever you want, so you can tailor it to your own interests.
Fantastic. Anything else to add there? We're sort of in our last 5 minutes, and I just want to pose it to you all. If you like Sonakshi had something to add to a question that was mentioned earlier, feel free to do so now.
I just thought of another highlight while Sonakshi was speaking, actually. There was a subject called Scientists' Communication in the Workplace, and I really enjoyed that subject. And I think this style of assignment, which is actually throughout the whole of the course, is the kind of like, you get given quite a practical problem and you have to take that collaborative approach to solve it. So that's something that I've also really enjoyed about the course. Just wanted to add that point in.
Yeah, I would add that both in that unit as well as in the project management unit, communication is very important. And having worked in the industry, both from a research point of view as well as business development, communicating what you're doing in research doesn't necessarily make sense from a business point of view. So you have to learn to communicate in a way that someone who's not necessarily working in that particular field will understand. So that's the challenge, I think, given to the students in this course as well. And by working in industry as well, they come across quite a variety of groups of people within the industry who they need to learn to be able to communicate to.
I think you've all perfectly encapsulated what the program is about, just by this, quite conversational chat about how everything's working within the program. It really has highlighted that it is a course focused on teamwork, focused on those other soft skills that you get in addition to that scientific knowledge, and building on those advanced scientific skills that you would already have from your undergrad degree. So we're coming to the end of our time. I don't know if it felt like it went pretty quickly for you guys, but it certainly did for me, trying to sort of balance all of the questions coming in at the same time. And thank you so much to all our attendees for submitting questions. They've all been wonderful. And also, of course, thank you so much to Richard, Turlo and Sonakshi for giving us their insights into the program from all different perspectives. That's been wonderful. So I think that's all we have time for in terms of questions. I'll probably close us off there. If we didn't get to your question, or if something pops up within the next couple of minutes, days, be sure to submit your questions to us via our online website. That's study.unimelb.edu.au, and you'll find the Master of Biotechnology website on that site as well. So once again, thank you so much to you all for attending, for presenting, for speaking to us today, and hope you're all staying safe and warm, or cool if you're in a warmer climate. We're all in winter at the moment, so you can tell we're all wearing our jumpers. But thanks again, and have a lovely rest of your day.